Hello everyone. In this session, we'll be talking about the cluster or mixed data type. In Tableau, the concept of cluster or mixed data type isn't directly related to the standard data types like strings, numbers, or dates. Instead, it often refers to a scenario where you have a combination of different data types or data with complex structure within a single field or column. Let's explore what a cluster or mixed data type in Tableau implies. Let's say that in certain data sets, you might encounter the columns or fields that contain a mix of data types. For example, a single column might both include the text and the numerical values. Tableau can handle the mixed data by detecting the dominant data types in the columns and treating it as such. But this can sometimes lead to a challenge in data analysis and visualization. When we talk about the data clustering in Tab, it often pertains to the data points that are grouped together based on certain attributes or similarities. You can use a clustering algorithm or techniques to identify the cluster of data points that exhibit the similar characteristics. Tableau supports data clustering through its integration with advanced analytics and machine learning platforms. So we have already seen how can we do the clustering in Tableau, and we already made a cluster for the different customer types related to the kind of discount that they were getting, the items they were purchasing in the different quantities. So we have already created these clusters. But what if your column is having multiple data types and you have also created a same cluster which has different informations? How can you bring it to the dimensions? How would you handle this mixed data? So dealing with this mixed data requires the thoughtful data preparation. In Tableau, you can perform the data cleaning and transformation tasks to convert the mixed data into the consistent formats. This may involve the splitting different mixed columns, extracting the relevant information, or converting the data into different data types. So we will go to the Tableau screen and see what are the different mixed data types that I am talking about and how can we create a clusters. We are in our Tableau screen, and here you can see that if we talk about this data, I have these columns where it says the order ID. Now this order ID, if you look closely, I have two things over here. The first one is this characters, and then I have this numerical values. What if I want to split these columns? If I can split these columns, then this particular part where I have these two initials would be becoming the textual part, and then the rest would be becoming the numeric part. In that way, if you have any column which has these kind of values, you can split those and you can try to fix the data type. But here I don't find any need to split this one because this order ID is basically the string type, so it is being recognized as a string data. But what if your data is having that kind of, so Tableau recognizes the most dominant data out of that. Let's say if my column has 10 values, if only two values are string and the rest are numeric in nature, so it would try to identify it as numeric nature, and then we need to correct those. If we talk about creating clusters, so to create a cluster, what you can do is, let's try to create a scatter plot first. To create a scatter plot, what I will do is I will first take the quantities and put different quantities by purchased by different customers. So let's say I'm taking the customer ID over here. Over here, you can see that these are the different quantities purchased by each customer. If I go in the show me menu and I try to convert it into the scatter chart, you can see for the scatter chart, I have the requirement of minimum two measures. So if you are taking this quantity, let's say that I am also taking the respective sales in that particular portion. So what is the quantity being sold with respect to the sales that I am being making? And what are these particular customers? Those are purchasing that particular. So if we discuss this in brief, I can easily find out that these are the number of quantities being sold and this is the sales that is happening. Now you need to find out the most valuable customers out of this. So obviously the customer who is purchasing a lot of items, and also the sales in which that customer is on the higher side would be termed as the most profitable customer. But if you want to create customers cluster, what you can do is you can go in this analytics section, and here I have this option to create a cluster. So I will double click on this cluster and Tableau will take care of the cluster. Right now it has given me three clusters, but if you want to increase the number of clusters, since over here it is showing the value as automatic in the number of clusters, I can easily fix that by putting a manual value. So let's say I want to create five clusters out of here. So I will press 5 and click enter. Now the clusters have been classified into five parts. Now these are some of the most valuable customers who are giving me good amount of sales and who are also purchasing in good quantity. Over here, this particular thing is showing the sum of quantity. If you don't want to see the sum of quantity, you can also change it to the count of the quantity. And here you can get a good result of per customer wise count of the product sold. So this is the way in which you can try to create a cluster. After creating any kind of cluster, what you can do is, if you want to put it in the dimension part, you can go in the data section and you can drag it over here in the dimensions, and it would bring the clusters over here, and you can see that there is now a different logo that is being showed for this cluster. If you want to rename it, you can easily rename it that customer segmentation, and now this cluster is ready for use. So this particular customer segmentation cluster has now been treated as a dimension. So this is the way in which you can try to create a cluster and then you can bring it to the dimensions. Now we have already created this kind of cluster. What you can do is you can also try to create a different cluster in which you can try to find out what is the quantity being sold for the customers and respective of the discount. So are there any customers who are not getting discounts but still are purchasing in high volume? So instead of sum of quantity, what I can do is I can choose the count over here, and instead of the sum of the discount, what I can choose over here is I can take the average of the discount, because I will be taking the average of the discounts. Now I can find it for the different customers. So this is the pattern that has been shown. This is the count of quantity for each customer, and this is the average discount that they are. To again convert it in the form of a cluster, I will go in analytics and I will double click on the cluster. So based on this, you can do different kind of customer segmentations on different measures, and you can try to create the dimensions of those clusters for the further analysis. So I hope the mixed and cluster data type was clear to you. We would be meeting in the next session where we will be talking about the different level of details in the tableau section.